The woodpecker is a very special little bird. The beak of a woodpecker is like industrial strength. It is stronger than other birds' beaks. He has special feet. Most birds have 3 toes out the front, 1 toe out the back. Woodpecker has 2 toes out the front, 2 toes out the back, and that's so he can climb around on a tree trunk, a vertical tree trunk, right side up, upside down, sideways. He can crawl any way he wants to. He has special tail feathers. His tail feathers are different than other birds' tail feathers. They're more resilient, they're spongy, and they're very strong and tough because he tripods himself with his 2 feet and his tail feathers so that he grabs a hold of that tree, fans out his tail feathers, and then bangs his head into the tree. Now, you would think that a woodpecker would go home every night and say to Mrs. Woodpecker, "I'm taking you, Jobe." "Oh, I got this headache. I was banging my head on a tree all day." But he doesn't. Why? Well, because God made him with special equipment. For instance, between his beak and his skull, there's a piece of cartilage. It acts as a shock absorber.
On the NASCAR circuit, it's high-speed cornering ability. On the street, it's wheel stability for maximum safety on all types of vehicles under any road conditions. For off-roading, it's reducing bottoming and maintaining control in the roughest terrain. Whatever terms you want to use, it all comes down to the same thing, handling bumps, and that means shocks.
His skull is the thickest bone per body weight of any creature.
Oh, it's like a 5th leg.
As a matter of fact, brain surgeons study the brains of woodpeckers, how they're hooked in there and everything, to help them with, like, trauma people in accidents, that they need to put their brains back in there. And so they study woodpeckers. The woodpecker, with his strong skull and his shock absorber and his strong beak and his tail feathers and his feet, he's all ready to go, except for one thing. Once he drills his hole, he's got to get that bug out of the tree.
Then I saw this black shape hunched over a termite mound. I peered through my binoculars. I saw a hand reach out, pick a piece of grass, and clearly was using this as a tool, pulling it out from the termite, the burrows into the nest, and picking the termites off with his lips.
Because that's lunch. All right, well, how's he going to do that? Well, most birds, their tongue goes right to the tip of the beak. A woodpecker's tongue goes as much as 10 inches out of his beak.
Only by slowing down the action 40 times can we really see what's going on.
Now why? Well, because he's going to drill the hole, find the bug tunnel down in the tree, stick his tongue down in the tunnel, and drag the bug out. Now you would have to say, could I stick my tongue down a hole in a tree and drag a bug out? Of course not. Well, how does the woodpecker do that? Well, God made the woodpecker with little barbs on the tip of his tongue, and he will literally stab that bug larva down in there because it doesn't want to come out. But
it sucks because they play some of my favorite songs, like Stab My Heart Because I Love You and Rip Apart My Soul, and of course, Stabby Rip Stab Stab.
In case that's not enough, he has a little glue factory in his tongue that manufactures exactly, precisely the right glue to stick to the bug, but it doesn't stick to his beak.
Dry as well, no glue. So we'll put the pieces together. Keep in mind with contact cement, once it's in contact, you've got an instant bond. So you want to make sure you're positioned exactly in the right place. And at the end of the day, you've got bond. You've got a bond that'll break the laminate.
And so he pulls that bug into his mouth. Now we have a problem, if evolution is true. Let's say over hundreds of thousands of years, this woodpecker got all this equipment, and then he glues his tongue to a bug, and he swallows the bug. What just happened to his tongue?
Oh my goodness. This one has been living in there a very, very long time. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to need to eat for a week after this one.
He just swallowed his tongue. You know, he dies, he just strangled himself, okay? But he doesn't. Why? Well, because as he brings the bug into his mouth, he has another little factory that manufactures the solvent to dissolve the glue. So he dissolves the glue, loosens up the bug, swallows the bug. God made him that way.
Look, you pinheads who attacked me for this, you guys are just desperate. How'd the moon get there? How'd the sun get there? How'd it get there? Can you explain that to me? How come we have that and Mars doesn't have it?
Woodpeckers, when they peck, they open their eyes between each peck, and they aim their beak, they focus, they aim their beak, they close their eyes, and then they hit the tree. So you hear a woodpecker out there, he's going, drr, drr. Every time you hear that, drr, in between each peck, he opens his eyes, focuses, aims his beak, hits the tree. Why?
Eyes are closed, press off 2 shots. There you go. So by body feel, listening to the pistol, feeling what's happening, we can do really good, and that gives us a major advantage.
Well, they used to think it was just to keep the wood chips out. But now the scientists have measured the force of the impact of the woodpecker's head against the tree. And the force is so great that if he did not close his eyes, he would pop his eyeballs out. So I would say, have you ever seen a blind woodpecker? No, they never miss. They never miss, okay? Now, one special woodpecker, the European green woodpecker. I think he's unique in all the animal kingdom. I don't know for sure, but I think he might be.
Well, Jobe, it appears you should have conducted just a little bit of research on this before you decided to talk about it, because if you had, then I wouldn't be in the position that I am right now, which is about to make you look like a fucking retard. First off, the green woodpecker is in fact not unique. There are 4 subspecies. Also, and this is the juicy bit, the green woodpecker spends much of its time feeding on ants in the ground and does not often drum on trees like other woodpecker species.
His tongue is different than any other tongue, as far as I know. Our tongue starts in the back of our throat, comes up and out the front. His tongue starts in the back of his throat, goes down the throat, comes out the back of his neck, up over the top of his head, it's under the skin, comes out a little hole between his eyes, goes in one of his nostrils, and then comes out of his beak. And you would have to say, now, how does that evolve?
I'll tell you why it's not a scam, in my opinion. All right? Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. You can't explain that.
I've asked evolutionists that question. I've said, now you tell me, how and where did that tongue come from?
You'll find the wrapper, which is biodegradable, has perforations. Notice how gracefully it sits over the human hand. Notice it has a point at the top for ease of entry. It's just the right shape for the human mouth. It's chewy, easy to digest. And it's even curved toward the face to make the whole process so much easier. Seriously, Kurt, the whole of creation testifies to the genius of God's creative.
They don't have a clue. They can't tell me. I'm saying, well, you're telling me that this bird evolved from some other creature, but there's no other creature that we know of with a tongue like that. How did that happen? They don't have any idea.
That lightning speed comes from these large muscles, which squeeze the tongue out of the mouth, rather like me squeezing a melon pit between my fingers. It's a nice design.
I think there are very bright people who study science and do a good job of it. But all of a sudden they get to a point where they have to decide, did this thing happen over long periods of time somehow? Or, boy, it sure looks like it could have happened just bang, just like it is. And then if they discover, hey, I have no way of describing this thing in terms of evolutionary science, they're faced with the other option.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. We must be over the rainbow.
Take you to a
we're not in Kansas.
Which is maybe a designer and a creator, and they say, I don't want to go that way, okay? So they suppress that evidence.
Oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened. I just found a creationist that's discovered the lies behind evolution. Guys, my fellow evolutionists, we need to discard the evidence, quick!
Looks like you've got your hands full.
Oh, it's just a little, housekeeping. If anyone should ask, you never saw this.
And so many of the things that I studied, we had to search just to find information on them because they are not in the textbooks. They just don't put them in because they have no way to explain it. And so they just ignore it.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.